I'm the Superintendent of Schools at Hamilton School District. Tonight we have our Meet the Candidates Forum, hosted by David Crane, and I just want to give you some background information. There'll be questions that Mr. Crane asks the candidates. These questions were pre-submitted to district office, organized, and you will hear the questions based on the input from community. At this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. David Crane, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dr. A. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the Candidates Night. We do want to remind you that the voting day is the 17th of May, so be sure to exercise your civic duty. I do want to say that I want to also congratulate the candidates here for agreeing to step forward and run for office. It's not an easy thing to do, and we give credit to anyone who seeks to have higher office or occupy higher office. So at this point, what I will be doing is asking a question. There are 8 questions. I did not make these up, as Dr. A had said. These were questions that were submitted to his office, and I will give each candidate 2 minutes to respond. Paul Lehman won the coin toss.
Or lost.
So, Paul, we're going to start with you, and this will be question 1. And the question is, how do you perceive the future of Hamilton Central School?
Well, I think as we just saw in the budget rundown, it's a challenging future. It's one that's fraught with a lot of uncertainty based upon changing enrollment size and changing demographics and also potentially changing programs and things that we're looking forward to. I think what's important, though, is just how important this school district is and has been to this community. The future is doing all that we can to preserve that, doing all that we can to keep this the unique school that it is. We went through a couple years ago a long discussion about whether we should merge with Morrisville-Eaton, and regardless of what your feelings are, that ship has sailed. So for us, the future now is how do we keep this school, this size, with the declining enrollment, the most positive place it can be, the greatest asset to the community it can be. And I also think one of the big things moving forward is we need to do all that we can to act and function in a partnership with the community members, with the faculty, with the students, with the administration, looking to get that synergy. This community has so much to offer in intellectual brain trust that we need to find ways to tap into, and we need to find ways to get that expertise and use it to keep Hamilton as great of a school as it can be.
Thank you, Paul. Michelle Jacobson, the question, how do you perceive the future of Hamilton Central School?
I agree with Paul. I feel that there is a challenge with the declining enrollment, but I also see it as a positive in the sense that it will give our students different opportunities and open up doors that we don't have open already.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bud Ballinger, how do you perceive the future of HCS, Hamilton Central School?
I'm actually very excited about the future. I feel like we've been through several years of kind of doom and gloom prophecies about our financial state and seeing funding going down from the state, and I feel like we're finally starting to see beyond that we're looking forward to a time when we're going to not be having tons of money thrown at us, but at least it's not going to be a struggle every year to feel like to see how we're going to stay whole. I'm excited because I think that we have some very intelligent and very creative people in this building, the staff and faculty and administration, and I feel confident that there are going to be ways to keep Hamilton as it is, but also to improve. And one example that I can think of is that I know the administration is exploring dually certified teachers, for instance, so that if we can forecast a department that may shrink, then we would look to hire a teacher there who could also teach in another department, which would keep us from having to eliminate or reduce positions.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're going to rotate, and I'm going to start the second question with Michelle Jacobson. Question 2. Will there be a merger with area schools, one central, well-endowed and equipped high school with grade schools remaining in the various hometowns? A central high school will offer more educational options like languages, science equipment, etc. Michelle?
So the question is, will there be a...
Will there be a merger with area schools? That was the question. That was the first sentence.
I don't think that that's a question that is on any single board member to answer. I don't believe that we should look at a merger. I think the study that we went through recently showed that that's not the way the district would like to go, and it's not what's in the best interest of our students at this time. But I don't think that that's something that I personally can answer, of will there be a merger.
Okay. Thank you. Bud Ballinger.
And I agree, that's not something that one would decide independently or I think even advocate for unless we knew that there was a good reason to do that. I do think that we should be open to all possibilities. Certainly at the end of the merger study and the public comment on that, that was an idea that a lot of people promoted or put out to us that they didn't want to, that if we ever were in a position where we felt like we had to merge, that kind of a regional high school would be a good way to look. As of right now, that's not on the table, but I think it goes into the category of anything that we have to do to maintain or improve what we have is worth looking at.
Thank you. Paul Lehman.
Well, I agree. I think that question has been asked and answered to a large extent, and that we went through a large, painful study and quite a bit of disruption in two communities as we looked through whether that's something that we wanted to do. I mean, the regional high school is a little bit different, but I do believe in the democratic process, and the community spoke pretty loudly that that's something that they didn't want to proceed with. I do think, though, that we need to look at alternatives. We need to look at options. I'm old enough to remember when BOCES first started and the idea that BOCES would take some administrative pressure off from schools and that they could do things collectively. You can debate whether that has or hasn't happened, but there may be things, as Mr. Wright spoke about earlier, ways that you could collaborate administratively, other services. Those things have to be looked at. But as for merging right now, I think the community was pretty clear in its intent.
Thank you. Question 3, we'll be starting with Bud Ballinger. And the question is this. In a small community and district, being on the school board might pose the appearance or actual conflict of interest in the decision-making process. Please explain how you might balance your role as a board member, where you will be responsible for confidential decision-making information when a loved one or family member might be an employee. Will you recuse yourself from matters of contract negotiations and personnel issues? And would you sign an agreement of confidentiality? Do you feel this is a conflict of interest? Right.
So I don't anticipate that specific scenario. I think that it's on anyone who is or will be on the board has the responsibility of monitoring decisions or discussions that the board has for personal interests that we have that would require us to recuse ourselves. I mean, I think it's an ethical obligation that we all have. So if it's a situation that there's a clear conflict, then I would say it does make sense. But with regard to the specific scenario that you mentioned, like I said, I can't speak to that exactly because it's not a situation that I am in or anticipate being in.
Thank you. Michelle Jacobson.
I would definitely sign a confidentiality agreement if that's what was asked of me. I have no problem doing that, and I have no problem with keeping things confidential that should be. I also don't feel that I would be in a position where I would need to recruit myself. However, if I did get to that point, I would make sure that that was what I were to do.
Okay, thank you. Paul Lehman.
Well, clearly, I may be in a position where I may have to recuse myself, so, and I would have no problem doing that. And I think in the 35 years that my wife and I have been married, we've come to a pretty good understanding in how our lives at times need to be kept completely separate. My work right now in the hospital setting, I need to sign a confidentiality agreement. I have to maintain the standards of HIPAA all the time. And there are many times in which my wife has come home and a student has mentioned to her that so-and-so is in the hospital and that I saw them. And they were shocked that my wife didn't know that. Well, there's no way I can tell her that, and I wouldn't do that. So it is a balancing act, and it's clearly something that we need to keep in the forefront, something that we talked about before I ever decided to take on this possibility. But it's something that I feel very strongly by. And as Bud said, I mean, it's just an ethical, professional responsibility that you have that I feel no problem living up to.
Thank you. And pay close attention, Paul. You're going to be the first to answer the next question. Question 4. Explain your understanding of the role of the Board of Education with regard to the relationship with the overall operations of a school district.
Well, my understanding is that we're really the oversight board, that we're looking at setting those strategic goals and objectives, looking over the operation and making sure that we are also the eyes and ears for the community. I think one of the things that I take very to heart and is very important is that we are representatives of the community. That is our function, and we need to find ways to make sure to get information from that community so that we're representing them, not our own personal beliefs and thoughts. But that being said, it's really the overall approach of how do we think the school should be functioning, what programs should they be looking at, really kind of the oversight. It's not necessarily a role of which we're working for the administration. To me, it's that partnership, that it's the teachers, the administration, the board, but the final word comes of the overall long-term strategic moves. It's the board's call to determine that.
Thank you. Michelle Jacobson.
I think that it's the board's job to remain fiscally responsible for the community and for the school. I think the board needs to oversee the school as a whole, to understand what's going on, and make sure that information is shared that should be shared to the community and to the school with proper notice, and be able to do that.
Thank you. Bud.
Similar to what Paul said, I think that the board's job is to establish a vision for what we want the district to be and how the things that we want to achieve as an organization. Our job is to put people in place who are capable of enacting that vision and meeting the goals that we set, and supporting them in their work to do that. I think that is one of the places where it probably is different in a small district than it would be in a large district. I think because we talk to people all the time and see people, and so in those instances, the board's job ends up being someone asks you a question to refer it to the correct person rather than getting directly involved before it's time, because I think that's when we're providing the oversight, I think that's the most responsible thing to do.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Michelle Jacobson. Short and sweet to the point. Why are you running for the board?
I think it's very important to give back to the community. I think our school is an important piece of our community, and that being involved in the school in one way or another is important. I'm a team player, and I look forward to working with the current board members to move the school forward.
Ballinger.
I'm actually ready for this one because I've answered this question a lot. I think It was a decision, actually. It wasn't a foregone conclusion when my term was coming to an end. One of the things that was very important to me was that Molly decided not to run again, and I felt like it was important to have someone on the board who had some experience. Not that I have a ton, I've been here 5 years, but I think if everyone else on the board right now, or who will be on the board next year, has about 2 years of experience. So it's, I feel like one of the contributions that I can make is to kind of provide some institutional memory for how we got to where we're at now, or the way that decisions were made, and the factors that went into the decisions that we've made in the past. And aside from that kind of practical issue, I really, I love the school, I love the district. In the fall, I'll have 3 kids here, and I feel like it truly is the hub of the community, and we've benefited a lot from the school, my family and I. And like Michelle said, I think it's important to give something back to the community.
Thank you. Paul Liebman, why are you running for the board?
At first, I have to say that you asked that question far differently than I usually hear it. It's usually, why are you running for the board?
Need to be professional.
But I mean, to echo what Michelle and Bud said, I think a lot of it is to be in service and to give back to the community. But I also think it's because I have a unique set of experiences to lend to it. Both of my sons went through Jay from kindergarten to graduation, Zach from first grade to graduation, so I know the experience as a parent. My wife obviously has been a teacher here for a long time. We also hosted a foreign exchange student who lived with us and went here for a full year from Spain, and then he went to Hobart and William Smith College, and even though he supposedly wasn't staying with us those 4 years, he was back every break then as well. I also coached in the modified boys soccer team, so I understand what it's like to be one of the coaches on the athletic staff. And before I went into the hospital role that I have now, the 25 more years that I did before that, I was in higher education administration, so it's still administrating in an educational setting. So I think it gives me a broad breadth of experiences to bring to the position. I'm happy that there are people that are going to be back on the board to give us that long-term approach, but I also think it's good to get some new blood and some fresh ideas. And I'm really looking forward to trying to, as I said, strengthen a sense of partnership. I just feel right now there's a lot of divisiveness. As I said at the last board meeting, a sense of an adversarial relationship. And, we need to do all we can to break that down. We've got a lot of talent in this community that can be brought to bear. And I'm just looking to be the voice for that as people come to me with their ideas and thoughts.
Thank you. Next question. Do you feel that given the current enrollment and how it is in a pattern of decline, that there is a need for 2 full-time principals? Bud, we'll start with you.
As of right now, I do think that that's something that's important. In large part because the needs for an elementary school are different from those of the middle and high school. It allows the principals to provide more direct kind of attention to the faculty that work in their schools, and to become really the experts on in their school. When after the merger study and all the subsequent discussions, we did look into the possibility of restructuring in various ways, and we tried one way for a little while, but I feel like at that time the community was actually pretty, people were pretty vocal that they didn't want to see change in the area of shared administration, and that they felt like some of the things that we have already that make us strong, we should maintain into the future. So in the future, obviously, the changes in our enrollment may necessitate different solutions or change or moves in to restructure, but I think right now we're not there yet.
Thank you. Michelle Jacobson.
off the top of my head, I would say yes, I think it's important to have them. However, I don't have the experience and the knowledge to know what we might benefit from not having one or keeping both. So it would be something that if it was a question and a budgetary concern, that it would be something that I would really have to look into.
Thank you. Paul Lehman.
Yeah, I agree with Michelle. I think for me to give an opinion right now, I mean, I could look from my past experiences, just, a grumpy old man saying, well, I remember back when there was only 2, and why do we need 3 now? But that would be an uninformed opinion. It would take more look at exactly what those roles do, how they're utilized, what value they bring to bear before you can make a decision like that. So I think it's, as with everything that we've been talking about, everything needs to be looked at and everything needs to be studied. We need to look at the possibilities. But for me today, to say whether it should be one or the other, I don't have enough information to make that call.
Thank you. And Paul, we'll start with you on question 7. What can you bring to the board, do you bring, that sets you apart from the others?
I'll refer to the answer I said before. I think the biggest part that I bring is just that breadth of experience, the contact with so many different areas of the school that gives me somewhat of an informed opinion of what goes on, but also gives me a real sense of passion for this place, that I want it to do the best it can do. I think the biggest talent I have that comes to bear here, after many years of administration, is asking the tough questions. I know at times it gets perceived as if I'm being difficult or as if I'm being opposed by the opposition party or something, but it's not. I think these are questions that need to be asked, and it wouldn't be serving this community to not ask them. We need to go through and look at these things, to check these things. The one hearing or meeting where we talked about the international student program, I still feel those questions need to be answered, and I find it shocking that some of them weren't looked at before. So I think that's what I bring, is that ability and that willingness to say, okay, you might get angry at me, and I understand that, I'll take that, but I'm going to ask the questions and look for the answers.
Thank you. Michelle Jacobson.
I admit that this is a new arena for me. However, I have many family members that are in the education field. My nephew, Danny Murray, is just leaving the elementary school, and my son is basically just entering, Tyler, as he wraps up his kindergarten year. With those, as well as the youth that I have, I feel that I bring youth to the table. I bring new ideas and new thoughts, bring questions, and hope that all of those things combined can give new life to what the teachers and the school hope to find in adding more members to the board.
Thank you. Bud Ballinger.
Kind of like I mentioned before, I think one of the things that I can bring to another term on the board is the experience that I've gained over the past 5 years. And I think the first year kind of seems like a blur because there's so many things to learn, even acronyms and not knowing what people are talking about. And so I feel like it probably took me a year to get that, and then forward from there, I keep learning. So, I have a passion as well for improvement and growth in the district, and I feel like my work isn't done. Like, I think that I've tried to make whatever contribution I could, and bring ideas to the table and listen to others' ideas. But I think there's still work to be done, and that there's still more growth. That being said, I think that everybody, all of you, all of us, have ideas, and my hope is that we all want the same outcome, that we all want the district to be as good as it possibly can be. We may have different ways of getting there, so I think that it's, in that way, it's a matter of, do people feel, like Paul was saying earlier, who do people feel like can represent them? And I think, fortunately, they have good choices this time.
Thank you. Question 8, we will start with Michelle. Do you feel that going forward with the International Students Program will affect in any way a superintendent search if and when the day ever comes?
think a program like that would have to affect a search in some shape or form. If that's the direction that the school and the committee that's looking into the international student program decides to go. Will it affect it in a large way? I'm not sure, but that would be the main focus of somebody coming into the school. I think that there's more factors that we would have to look at when we were looking at a superintendent if that were the case.
Thank you. Bud Ballinger.
I'm sure, like Michelle said, that it would have an effect. I suppose it could make us more or less attractive to prospective superintendents, hopefully more. That being said, I think we're a ways from having it up and running, and it's something that we've been talking about a long time. So I think the original proposal was that we worked on it about 4 years ago, and unfortunately circumstances didn't work out at that time. But I think that as an asset to the school, something that can improve our children's education, I think it would make us attractive. We don't have any intention. Hopefully, we're not talking about a search anytime soon. But I think that anything that we can do to improve education, and I think the international student project is one. Would probably help us attract a wider range of candidates.
Thank you. Paul Lehman.
I think, if you look at the international student program at its largest scale, anytime we have an influx of that many students into the school, it's going to affect everything. I don't care what it is, it will impact everything. That doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It just means that it's an impact. And it's the same in a search for faculty or superintendents or any administrators. As looking at it, those people are going to look at this and either be excited about it or also think that maybe that's something they don't want to be involved in. So it will have an impact. I don't think you can measure it as positive or negative. It's just going to be, it is what it is. You may attract some candidates. It may detract some others, but that's the same as every facet of our school. Our athletic program, because it does very well, attracts some people, and other people don't want to be a part of that environment. It just is what it is.
Thank you. We've now concluded the 8 questions that were submitted. We will give each candidate 2 minutes to express closing comments, and we'll start with you, Paul. 2 minutes.
That coin toss cost me a lot.
Yes, it did.
I'd just like to say in closing again that the same things I've reiterated. I would appreciate your support. I look forward to trying to be on the board. I have run once before, an unsuccessful bid, but I always looked at that as a positive effort anyways, because it brought to light a change in the voting process. In the past, when I ran before, you would have had to say which seat you were going to run against. So what typically happened is an incumbent would be running, that person would have run unopposed, everyone else would have ran for the empty seat. So you'd have 3 people running for the one empty seat and the other person running unopposed. When I challenged that by taking on probably one of the most well-known and most popular people on the board with Ed Lovelace, who I think just started speaking to me last week finally, it brought that to light, and that brought about a change. I even look at the fact that we have microphones now in front of the tables as a change that hopefully I can bring. So that's what I'm looking to do. I look for your input. I'm really looking to be a partner with all of you in this education process. And as Bud said earlier, I'm proud to be on a panel with these other 2 candidates, the 3 of us. The fact that you have these kind of choices, I think, is a wonderful testament to our community and to our school. And I wish them the best of luck as well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Jacobson.
One of the bases for why I'm running for the board is because I feel that the board, staff, and community triangle has to be an effective communication triangle. And that's something that I would strive for, to see improve. And I think that it's a good time for me and a good time for the community to look at the 3 of us and make a decision on who they feel would be the best 2 candidates for this one.
Thank you. Bud Ballinger.
I'm very grateful and honored that I've had the opportunity to serve for the last 5 years, and I think that my hope is that whether, as I said before, whether we all agreed on the decisions that we've made or the opinions that I've expressed about various topics, that we can appreciate that we all want the same thing, that we want the school to be as good as it can be. We want to see growth in our district and progress. So, hopefully I've done good enough that people want to see me up here again. But if not, as I said earlier, I think that we have good options, and I think that this will continue to be a great place. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. I think they all deserve a round of applause. Again, we wish you all the best of luck, and thank you for your duty and citizenship here to the district. Dr. A, is there anything else you'd like to add, or?
On behalf of the entire Hamilton School community, I want to thank the candidates for coming out. Most of you know I was a school board member, and it is I think one of the biggest acts of service you can do for your community is to volunteer and sit on the school board. The many late nights and the tough decisions that have to be made. So I'd like you to just give a round of applause to our candidates tonight again, just because it's extra work. Of course, the information is up, and we thank you for coming, and have a wonderful evening.